Oh, hey, good morning, everybody. This is Dave coming to you from the Wyoming house here in the office. No hat. Freshly showered. As always, I'm smoking the Wyoming Meerschaum, but what's in it is a little bit different today. Went with the dark flake unscented. These things are dark, rich flakes. I still experiment with the best way to smoke a flake. I've done the rip it apart and grind it up, and I've done the folding stuff. I just find that flakes and me get along better when I tear them up and grind them up a little bit. Right now I'm doing a little bit of folding stuff. So boy, is it hard to get it and keep it lit when I do it that way. All right, we'll start out today. We'll talk a little bit about the weather. Um, the weather up here in the Rockies. Again, I'm at the house here is at 8,000 feet, 7,850 if you actually care about the real number. But we've had really cold mornings have really set in. It was 26 this morning, and then come Monday, the whole weather pattern changes, and we actually get to what is much more seasonable temperatures. I'll show you that in a minute. And then we've got snow and rain moving in next week as well, so that really does help with the. Well, one, it's just more natural. The animals will behave more normally, and it really does help with the fire. The fire status is great. The northern rim is essentially out at this point, and they're even talking about some of their efforts now are just to remove unneeded equipment. So that's about as good as I can hope for. Eventually, we'll get it to smoldering. I think it's already in smoldering status on the northern rim, and I think eventually they'll declare it out, which is pretty damn cool. So anyway, that's it for fire status. Hopefully, it'll continue. Hopefully, as this week comes in on us, the weather, the snow, the rain, the fire, hopefully we'll get to a point where the entire circumference of the fire is statused as smoldering, mop up, and equipment removal. So that is good. It's good to have that one continue to reduce as a threat, and I can't wait for this thing to be over. So we had a kind of a bad incident here Tuesday night. I guess so the bear we call 399, probably the most famous individual animal on earth, the grizzly 399, was hit by a car and killed at 10:30 Tuesday night. Been ruled an accident by the state police. But out here, it's a big deal. I mean, God, it just blew up in the news. Everyone's talking about it. 399 was a 28-year-old female. She'd had 18 cubs over the years. She got most famous in 2020 for having 4 cubs that survived. I don't know if any of them are still alive today, 4 years later, but show you a picture of her. So, yeah, it was just a bear. I mean, I get it. We were talking about it at the lounge yesterday. I mean, it's tragic, but she was a bear. I mean, we hate to lose her, but it's a big story out here and one that will continue to be. Don't know if it's reached you guys in your areas at all, but it's a big story out here. It's just a big deal out here. I wanted to bring it to your attention. They've agreed. I feel bad for the guy that hit it. Some kid, 19-year-old kid. They've agreed not to release his name just to keep him safe, because I think he'd be kind of hunted or pursued as the killer of 399 when in fact it was a traffic accident. She had a bad habit of just walking out on the road with her cubs. And that's just kind of what happened here. She just stepped onto the highway and the guy couldn't stop and hit her. Anyway, it's an example of bad human behavior, not the driver, but people were actually putting food out for the bears here in Jackson because they liked seeing them, and they kind of got desensitized to human contact. So walking into people's yards and climbing fences and then getting on the roads really were as much the fault of the people who fed her as the guy who hit her. So anyway, I just thought a good example of maybe well-intentioned people, but just really bad results. So they actually did a book on 399. We have the book. So Grizzly 399, the world's most famous mother bear. So that's kind of funny. We've had that book for a couple years. And then the next day, this was our local paper here. She had one cub last year, so this is her cub from last year with her. This is her 1-year-old cub. The wildlife guys have determined that the cub will live. You know, it's old enough to live on its own now, so that's kind of good. But anyway, enough about the bear. I just want to bring that up to you. So the big story for me since the last video was I got my wood splitter. This thing's a monster. It's a beast. It's one of the largest ones I can buy as a private citizen. It's a 40-ton press, tow behind unit, but I actually got the thing delivered, and they delivered it in this perfect box, and I was like, uh-oh. I ripped the lid off, and it was just a basically giant bucket of parts. So I'm going to show you. I got all the parts out of the box and spread them all across the garage floor so you can see the IKEA approach to the delivery. And then I show you, I get it all assembled, and I show you all the funnels, and I mean, it was 10 gallons of hydraulic fluid that went in the tank, and then almost 4 quarts of oil that went in the engine. And the engine fill on these little Briggs and Strattons at the bottom. So it's at the bottom of the engine block, which is all blocked by the parts of the splitter itself. So anyway, got it all done, but I got a little video of all the stuff that went into it as well. So it was a challenge to put together, but I got it done in about 3 hours. Wasn't too big of a deal. The first thing the instructions say when you download them from the site is don't attempt to construct this thing on your own. And the main reason is the main split rail is about a 6-foot piece of iron girder, and you have to lift that thing and slide it into its receiver on the hydraulic tank, which is actually where the wheels are as well. So if it had been just pick it up and set it down and bolt it in, it would have been easy, but to pick it up and slide it, oof, that was tough. But got it done, and what's next are just a couple videos on this log splitter itself. So I'm going to show you those, and then we'll come back and finish. All right, guys, 9:30 in the morning on Thursday, and today is log splitter assembly day. So here we go. Step 1 coming up. My supervisor is here to help me. All right, guys, we got it done. It took about 2.5 hours, but she's fully assembled and ready to use. Actually, I've got to add about 11 gallons of hydraulic fluid and several quarts of engine oil, but we will head to town and get that, and maybe add it this afternoon, but certainly get it running tomorrow. But the hard part's done, man.
getting that rail system up on top of the wheel system was rough. It was a one-man show. All right, so I got this thing running. So this back, what looks like a back axle, is the hydraulic tank. It holds up to 12 gallons. They advise you only to put 10 gallons in initially. 10 gallons, so 2 5-gallon buckets. And then it took about 2.5 quarts of oil to fill up the engine block. And it took me several funnels to get it done. You should see where I had to fill it up. So that yellow handle under there, that's the oil fill. And boy, talk about a tough angle to get an oil fill done. At least the hydraulic fluid tank fill is right there on top. Anyway, up, running, beautiful.
You guys are going to be wood experts by the time you get through this series of videos. Yeah, it feels really good to have that log splitter here, assembled, running, operational. Now, what I'm going to do now is put it away because I don't want to split green wood. That's a nightmare. So I will split it next summer after all that giant wood pile I showed you. I need that to kind of dry out. It'll dry out enough by next summer or next fall to do all the splitting. Hopefully by then I'll have all the trees I chained away cut up, limbed, and burned, and get those cut up into coins. Get those logs bucked, as they called it, into 2-foot lengths, and get those on the pile and get those split as well. So anyway, it just feels good to have that splitter here. You just have to have one to manage the kind of wood I manage on this property. Hand splitting it just doesn't make sense. There's at least 10 cords. I may be way underestimating that, by the way. But it just feels really good to have that done and ready. So I will put it in underneath the guest house where all those horse stalls and storage areas are, where the boat is. I will store that in there for the winter time. So that's what today's job is to get the splitter put away and get the garage cleaned up, and then get one more step and the process is done. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. We'll go ahead and I'll shut up and assemble all these parts and get the video uploaded. So anyway, I hope you're having a good Saturday. Hope you got a good Sunday. Hope you got a good week planned for next week. Hope life's good. Life's real good out here. Yeah, nice and stable with the proper weather coming in. The fire looks like it's no longer a threat. The house is cleaned up around the yard and all that, and splitter's done. It's just been a good couple weeks. So I left the house in Maryland 5 weeks ago today, and I start my journey back 3 weeks from Monday. So I still have quite a bit of time here. It's kind of nice being my longest trip out. It'll be 8 weeks here in Wyoming before I head back to Wyoming. I'm back to Maryland, and feels good. Got a lot done, and still 3 weeks to go. That's it, you guys. We'll talk to you on the next video. Bye, everybody.